The Hollywood Beats take on TV. I'm Tandy Culpepper.
And I'm Lisa Johnson Mandell.
And today we're talking about a new sitcom on Hulu called Mid-Century Modern that is produced by, or I should say, created by, uh, a couple of guys who have been around the block before with another very well-known sitcom. And what is that, Lisa?
That would be Will and Grace.
And these guys are Max Mutchnick and David Kohan. Before we go any further, let's play the trailer from Mid-Century Modern.
Welcome, boys.
I always forget how big this place is.
Go pick a bedroom, just not the one that smells like Nivea and disapproval, because that's my mother's.
I'm just saying it's been a minute since we've been out in the wild, so it might take some time.
It might, but that's okay. We have all weekend to find somebody.
See you back at the house.
Like a white man hailing a cab.
Hear me out. We're alone. We never see each other.
We FaceTime every night.
I use a filter. It's barely even me. You'll both move in here. Let's be together while we still can. Like a family. This is a big change. Don't you have any advice for me?
Oh, sweetheart. Your father and I raised a confident man who takes a bite out of life.
Then why'd you name me Bunny?
Lisa, who are the cast members of Mid-Century Modern?
Well, I love the cast. It's handpicked just perfectly, and they fit right into the premise. It stars Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, and Nathan Lee Graham, and they're gay friends who become roommates later in life. Dare we say men of a certain age, and they become roommates in the Palm Springs house of Nathan Lane's character's mother. And they all live together in happiness, supporting each other. They become a chosen family, and they just help each other through life's challenges. And you know what? If this setup sounds a little familiar, it is. You saw it in The Golden Girls. So this show has been sort of christened the gay Golden Girls. And
Beats designing women.
yes, both. It's all about people who are. I can't say they're past their prime because these guys are pretty prime, but people who are past their 20s and 30s and sort of making the best of life in that period of time. And I think from that perspective, I love it when there are shows that feature older people because not everybody is 25 and gorgeous.
Exactly. Nathan Lane plays Bunny Schneiderman, who
I love
is,
that name.
they call him a brassiere magnate. He's made a fortune selling brassieres. And then Matt Bomer is a flight attendant named Jerry Frank. And Nathan Lee Graham is a fashion journalist named Arthur Broussard, who has fallen on tough times and is now selling designer clothes in a boutique. And Linda Lavin is Bunny's mother, Sybil. I take it you like this show.
I like it. It grew on me. The first episode, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so stereotypical, and they're using that lazy old sitcom format of, set up, punchline, but bump. You can practically hear the rim shots, and all the conversation was just too witty and clever. But then as I got into it and as they developed the characters and everything, I started really caring for these guys and really seeing something in them. And since I love everything mid-century modern, I'm a total mid-century modern architecture and design geek. It really took a hold of me after the first episode and a half.
There was, I'm trying to find in the notes that I misplaced. Variety magazine, or Variety, the trade journal, said, and let's see if I've got it here. Ah, here it is. And I quote, "It leans into several stereotypes of the LGBTQ plus community, but it's all done in good humor and with a bit of flair." Okay, first of all, as the resident gay man in this recording, um, I, one, have never been fond of being lumped in with LGBT before it became Q plus. LGBT to me sounds like a bacon and lettuce tomato sandwich. And I'm not in a community with lesbians or bisexuals or transgenders. And I don't know what the Q plus. What you've covered
Queer,
the rainbow of things there. So
yeah,
what's the plus stand for? You know,
etc.
yeah. Um, so I suppose that would be no, that couldn't be right. Um, but one, it does more than lean into several stereotypes. I mean, Matt Bomer plays a flight attendant, and then you've got Nathan Lee Graham, who was the fashion journalist. But I just always look at people like that as being, I call them professional gays. It's like everything about their life is comes through a gay prism, and I just don't find it. I fear that people who watch this, and someone may stumble across it and watch it, and because they may not know someone personally, um, uh, who is gay, or they may know someone who's gay and not know it. That's probably more the case because you could throw a rock out there and hit someone who's gay or who's related to somebody who's gay or is friends with someone who's gay and may not know it. But I find it um, kind of it puts us all in the box, the same box, and I just resent that. So I'm not a big fan of this show.
I that's a really interesting point. That's one that I hadn't really thought of before because not being a gay man, you see these and you think, oh, well, these guys are fun, they're interesting characters and everything. And I would think, well, this is I would think it was a positive description of them, just from my perspective, showing them that they, as far as being disappointed in love and trying to find satisfaction and maneuvering relationships and all that. I can relate. I mean, so many people are, but they do have that flair that you mentioned. It's, and I personally find it amusing. And I hadn't, until you talked to me about that, I hadn't ever thought, well, gee, how would that occur? Would I like to see all middle-aged women portrayed as having hot flashes all the time and, worrying about their weight and talking about their ex-husbands and, that kind of stuff? I mean, I wouldn't want people to think all middle-aged women were like that because that's not how I am too. But I did appreciate when they went into the characters, some of their backstories, when they go into them a little farther. It was really interesting to me, especially when I started liking the show was when they started exploring Matthew Bomer's character. Jerry is a flight attendant, but he's also a father and an ex-husband who belonged to the Mormon church and lost his family and his membership in the Mormon church when he came out as being gay.
Yes, and this is still a problem. They are intransigent. I have a friend who is Mormon, and she has kind of taken a step back because she's so uh, unhappy with their attitudes toward uh, gay people, and which I applaud her for. But the church is, in fact, years ago, when I was still working at the CNN Bureau, I did an interview with um, an actor and filmmaker who had written a movie called Latter Days
Oh,
about the very topic that we're addressing now, because you do get excommunicated from the church. It's, I don't want to offend people who are Mormon, but it's, no, you know what? I'll just let it go there. I won't give my opinion. Uh, but the first episode of Mid-Century Modern, they go into this out of nowhere, this dance routine around the coffee table. And I thought, oh, yeah, how many times have I done that?
yeah.
You know, never. Uh, there are days where when you're around maybe some friends and you get all campy because, it's something that every once in a while you pull out to be kind of like, oh, for instance, the Gay Pride Parade. A friend of mine uh, told me that, well, he was offended by the Gay Pride Parade, and that was shown on television from West Hollywood. And I said to him, "Do you think that all those people in that parade are like that 7 days out of the week?" I said, "Would you characterize, excuse me, all straight people as being what happens in Mardi Gras parades?" And he said, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, see, but yeah, the stereotypes are what got me." Now, another thing that I'll say is that you and I did a previous episode about hacks and Ted Lasso,
Yes.
neither of which use laugh tracks. And this show uses a laugh track, and it seems so retro. What do you think?
I think, and that's another thing I noticed when I was talking about it being sort of the stereotypical sitcom from several years ago. But I think that's intentional to put you back in the time when, back in the, mid-century modern, it's, 60s, 70s. That's when they were using laugh tracks. And I think that's sort of intentional to give you a feeling of back then. But that, something, let me ask you this. Okay, people dancing around the coffee table, it's almost like choreographed and they're singing I think they were singing a Donna Summer song, a disco song or something like that. Now, let me ask you something. This kind of behavior happens in so many living rooms, so many kitchens these days, thanks to TikTok. This is what they do. They have their dance routines. They dance together. So while it feels kind of contrived in this, it's going on a lot. I mean, I know you never watch reality TV, but
I've never never been
Yeah.
on
There's one show,
TikTok.
it's called Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Are you
And those girls are
serious?
breaking out into TikTok dances all the time. That's a show I hate, by the way. But it's happening now, which is kind
I've
of
never been on TikTok. I wouldn't know what to do. I finally this week uh, went on Instagram, which I had not been on since I registered for it when it first came out. And I don't know how that works either. I've never been on Snapchat. I guess I am, shall we just say I've become one of them. I'm at that age where I've got my Facebook and and I never tweet either. And I joined Blue Sky, but I've never put out anything on Blue Sky. So uh it is what it is. Anything else you want to say about mid-century modern?
well, I wanted to circle back a minute into the Mormon aspect of it
Okay.
because I was right there. I was Mormon for many years, and I too left the church for different reasons, but I had a lot of the same emotions that he has. And whoever the Mormon writer is on this show really has it down, or ex-Mormon writer probably. But I did want to correct you. You don't, the Mormon church has changed and has evolved, and it's still not where it should be. But these days, you are not automatically excommunicated for being gay anymore.
As long as you're not practicing.
Exactly. But then again, if you're straight and you're having sex outside of marriage, you can also get excommunicated.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So depending on, your position in the church and everything, it's not automatic. It's not like boom, but depending on the situation and all that, if you commit adultery, or, if you are married and you commit adultery, or if you have sex outside of marriage, depending on the circumstances, you can get excommunicated for that too.
But if your position in the church is a missionary, that would be
Ooh,
okay.
then you get in, no, then you get in bad trouble. And it's so interesting because I was a member of the church as these things were evolving. When I went to BYU, yes, that's how into the culture I was, they were using shock therapy for gay
No.
students.
Are
Yeah,
you serious?
yes. And I knew people who had to go undergo that or be kicked out of not only the church but the university as well. So it's come a long way. It never should have been there, but it's taking entirely too long to evolve. And frankly, that's one of the reasons why I left.
Well,
Because
now this show, Jerry, Matt Boomer's character, has an old friend slash flame whose name eludes me. Uh, but he shows up on the door step and he's got uh, what do you call it? A boutonniere on. And he walked out of his wedding and he's Mormon, a Mormon friend. And this guy is as dense as Jerry is. And I found that kind of funny, except it was like you've got these two. So, what are they saying about Mormons? It's gay Mormons are dumb.
clueless.
Yeah, because Matt Bomer's character is like, whoosh,
Yeah.
and so is the guy that shows up on his doorstep. Um, that's all I have to say about this, except that it is the type of sitcom it is a throwback. Oh, and it also uses multi-camera technique, which was, do you know who was the first person to come up with the idea of three cameras in a sitcom?
Was it Lucille Ball? I don't. I'm
Well, it was Desi Arnaz, actually.
Oh, I was close.
Yes, you were close. I Love Lucy, and Desi Arnaz came up with the idea to use more than one camera. So that's all I've got to say. And so doing a throwback to or taking a look now at Max and David's first collaboration in the sitcom arena, Will and Grace.
It was really sort of bold because it did have gay characters in it that we saw for the first time. I mean, some of us saw for the first time on television, these people who were,
A
loud
gay
and proud
male,
about it.
a
Yeah,
gay male.
exactly. Exactly. And the whole premise of it is Will and Grace. It's set in New York City, and it focuses on the relationship between Will Truman, who's a gay lawyer, and his best friend Grace Adler, who's a neurotic Jewish interior designer. And so then they've got fun friends like Karen Walker, she's just an
Megan
alcoholic
Mullally,
socialite.
that voice.
Funny. Yeah.
And do we
And
ever
then,
know what Jack, Sean Hayes' character did for a living?
well, he was an actor. Remember? And he was always trying to get, he's always trying to get parts. And they'd always say, well, you need a fallback. And he'd try to get other jobs. And he always did a terrible job at them. And
I forgot that because, see, okay, I'm going to have to go out and confess, I never watched Will and Grace.
you didn't? Why not?
It didn't interest me at all.
Okay, was it for the same reason that mid-century modern doesn't interest you?
Could have been, but that's back in 1998.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of what I was watching back then, but it wasn't. I've never been much into comedies, but except for Hacks and Ted Lasso, but they're so much a cut above of what you think of as your typical comedy. This one also had a laugh track, and the first episode, Will has just ended a 7-year relationship, and Grace is about to be married, and Will realizes that her intended is not good enough for her and tries to talk her out of it. And he's successful. So you've got all this sight gag because she's walking around the episode with a veil and a wedding dress on. And they go to a bar, and the people at the bar assume that the two of them are newlyweds, like you would take your bride to a sports bar. So I thought, okay, this is 1998, and we're still doing the same kind of thing in 2025, except that she's the neurotic interior decorator, not Will. And Will is an attorney. And you've got the juxtaposition of Will as a lawyer who is, I won't say butch, but he's masculine. And you've got Sean Hayes as a guy that goes, you just assumed I was gay. And Will said to the guy that Sean was saying that to, no, he says it to Sean, even deaf and blind people know you're gay. And then Grace says, my dog knew you were gay. So it's, that's good humor. And that's to have, I think at its time, that was groundbreaking, and it was a breakthrough for portraying positive gay representation on television, gay men. It interestingly, though, it aired at 9 o'clock at night. They made sure it was at a time when they called, didn't they call that the adult? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. But it was also part of NBC's must-see TV.
yes,
Remember that with yeah,
yes,
with and
Thursday night.
Thursday night you were watching comedy, and I was through the whole thing. I think I saw every episode of Will and Grace that came out. I just loved it.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I loved Grace. I loved it because she wasn't the typical needy white woman who was just looking for a man. You know what I mean? She had a rounded life. And then Karen Walker, oh my gosh, Megan Mullally, so funny. What a funny character. And then there was Just Jack. You always used to run
Yes.
through and say, I'm Just Jack. And I found all of them really hysterical and refreshing because it wasn't your typical family set in the living room comedy, you know, with people coming and going in and out of the kitchen and the living room. Like we still see that today
In
in
mid-century modern.
yes, yes. But it's also in, you know, in most network TV sitcoms, they still have a lot of that. So in this, it was set in a much bigger, you know, it was a much bigger world. It was really interesting. And so I like, you know, that's what I like about it. Two fun facts about Will and Grace, okay? Matthew Bomer, who we talked about in Mid-Century Modern, he guest starred on Will and Grace. He played a character called McCoy Whitman. I don't remember what he did or who he did, but Matthew Bomer was on the same thing, working with Max Mutchnick again and all that, which I thought was very interesting. And then yeah, well, that's the main one I wanted to bring up because I think
Well,
it's
we
interesting.
forgot to say, you were telling me the house that mid-century modern supposedly takes place in was whose house?
Dinah Shore's house in Palm Springs. It's a classic mid-century modern house. Yeah, I forgot to bring that up. Yeah, it's so interesting because in so many shows, like remember, like on Friends and the Brady Bunch, especially, they always have a just to establish where they are. They have a still shot of an exterior. They did it on Young Sheldon, and they did it on, you know, like yeah. Friends, so many different places. You know, they'd show the Friends, they'd show the building, and on in mid-century modern, they show this famous mid-century modern house that Dinah Shore built, and then later Leonardo DiCaprio bought it. So yeah, it's a landmark in Palm Springs. But the inside, the sets, like so many of these shows, they just show a building and nothing. They don't shoot anything there at all. They just show, you know, they show the building and then they take you somewhere. You know, they everything else is done on a sound stage. So mid-century modern, they do all the interiors are on a sound stage, but this exterior they show Dinah Shore's house. And every once in a while they bring her up on the show and it just makes me laugh because, you know, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but I'm a mid-century modern fanatic, so I
Um,
recognized it.
I think that fun facts like that are add so much to your attachment to what's going on. We should say there are probably some people out there that don't know that Linda Lavin died before the end of the season um, on her way to the hospital, to the emergency room. And they wrote that very thing into the show. And I thought I will give them uh, props for this. They depicted that very well and respectfully, reverence. They showed reverence for it, and it was a good send off for both her character and for the actress herself. So you haven't seen that episode yet, have you?
I haven't seen that one yet. I'm looking forward to it, though. I'll probably watch it as soon as we're done with this. But
So go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, you know, yeah, those kind of interesting facts do add to your attachment to a show. And some of them for Will and Grace. This is something I found out as I was doing my research and going back on it. I started remembering them. Will and Grace was a favorite show for actors to do cameos on. So I mean, this was really a groundbreaking show at the time. I mean, at the top of the heap on on a must-see TV, and it ran for, I think, was it 8 seasons? Wasn't
Eight
it eight
seasons,
seasons?
and then they rebooted it for 3 seasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's something that I did not remember. Will and Grace premiered 1 year after the Ellen episode where she says that, yep, I'm gay, and it gets picked up by the microphone. I think they're in an airport terminal lounge. And then she was on the cover of Time or Newsweek with the, yep, I'm gay, coming out, where I don't think anybody assumed she was straight. But yeah, it was a seminal moment in television history, because there was a time when, except for I remember Stephen Carrington on Dynasty was a gay character. And we used to sit around, my friends and I, and we'd have Dynasty parties every Wednesday night.
I love
But
that.
I digress. So anything else you want to add?
Well, you know, Will and Grace really was groundbreaking. And I mean, because like I said, a lot of people had never seen gay people in that context. And I know that you're more comfortable with shows that have gay guys uh, who are not all flamboyant, who are kind of much. And there's a really great show that's coming out now. We're going to have to talk about this. Have you heard about the new 4 seasons?
No.
Oh, it's good. You'll love it. You'll binge the whole thing in one night. It's a half-hour sitcom. Let's see, I believe it's on Netflix. Yes, it is. And Coleman Domingo plays one of the characters on it. And he is gay in real life, but he plays a lot of straight characters. And so I think he's the kind of character that you will really like. So I can't wait to talk about that and for you to watch that and get your take on it.
Now, see, here is you've got Coleman Domingo, you've got Pedro Pascal,
Mhm.
both of them gay, both of them do not play gay characters. And then you've got Matt Bomer, who has been in more than one project where he's playing a gay character. And I would think that this role is going to stereotype his career, if that's a good use of the word. I don't know that it is, but I find it, I would think he would want to play something that cut against the grain, but that's me minding his business. So, all right, that's all I've got to say. What about you?
Yep, I think we discussed some really interesting topics, and I learned a little bit more about you and a lot more about the gay community and your take on it, which is very, very enlightening for me.
And mine is only one opinion. Let me go on record there. So without further ado, I'm Tandy Culpepper.
And I'm Lisa Johnson Mandell.
Thank you for joining us on the Hollywood Beat.